What if I told you there's a Bible older than the one most of the world reads today? A Bible filled with stories, books, and mysteries that have been erased from history. And yet, it's right there in the heart of Ethiopia. Imagine standing at the edge of an ancient monastery, perched high in the Ethiopian highlands, surrounded by centuries-old stone walls that seem to hum with the energy of history itself. Inside lies a treasure, guarded by monks who have dedicated their lives to preserving it. This treasure isn't gold or jewels. It's something far more valuable, the Ethiopian Bible, known as the Ethiopian Bible. But before we fully dive in, if this is your first time here, please subscribe, like, and share this video to help spread the hidden truths of Scripture to others. Now, let's get started. This Bible is unlike any other. While the Western world recognizes 66 books in its canon, the Ethiopian Bible contains 15 books that most Christians have never even heard of. These aren't trivial additions. They include the Book of Enoch, Jubilees, Baruch, and others that delve into celestial mysteries, cosmic events, and divine secrets. But why don't we know about them? To understand the answer, we must step back in time, nearly 2,000 years. The roots of the Ethiopian Bible go back to the 1st century AD, when Christianity first reached the ancient kingdom of Aksum. According to tradition, it was Philip the Apostle who shared the gospel with an Ethiopian official, as recorded in the book of Acts. This marked the beginning of a Christian tradition that would grow independently of Roman influence. By the 4th century, under King Ezana, Ethiopia officially adopted Christianity, making it one of the first nations in the world to do so. But here's the twist. While Christianity in Rome was being shaped by councils and creeds, Ethiopia remained untouched by these external forces. Their canon of Scripture was solidified long before Western Christianity even began to define its own. And that's where the story takes a fascinating turn. Unlike the Western canon, which was whittled down to a neat 66 books during the Council of Nicaea and subsequent councils, the Ethiopian Church preserved a broader and arguably more ancient collection of texts. These texts weren't just theological. They were mystical, visionary, and unapologetically bold in their exploration of the divine. Let's start with the Book of Enoch. If you've heard of it, it's probably as a lost book or an apocryphal text. But in Ethiopia, it's not lost at all. It's right there, included in the Bible, considered just as sacred as Genesis or Psalms. This book, attributed to Enoch, the great-grandfather of Noah, takes readers on a journey into the heavens. It describes the fall of the Watchers, angels who descended to earth, taught humanity forbidden knowledge, and corrupted creation. It also prophesies about the coming of the Messiah and the ultimate judgment of the wicked. But here's the kicker. Much of what Enoch describes has eerie parallels with modern science and astronomy. It talks about the movement of celestial bodies, the division of time, and even phenomena that sound a lot like black holes and wormholes. How could a text this ancient contain such advanced understanding? And that's precisely why it was banned by the Western Church. The Book of Enoch raised too many questions. Questions that threatened to unravel the tightly controlled narrative of religious authority. Then there's the Book of Jubilees, sometimes called the Little Genesis. This text offers a detailed chronological account of biblical history, complete with divine timelines and hidden prophecies. It presents a cosmic calendar that suggests time itself is a divine construct, designed to unfold according to God's perfect plan. Why was this book excluded from the Western canon? perhaps because it gave too much agency to individual believers, encouraging them to seek understanding directly from God rather than through the mediation of the Church. Why, indeed, would the Western world suppress these texts while Ethiopia embraced them? Ethiopia's isolation played a significant role in preserving these texts. The rugged mountains and remote deserts of the region made it difficult for outside forces to impose their will. While the Roman Empire spread its influence through Europe and beyond, Ethiopia remained an independent Christian kingdom, fiercely protective of its traditions. This independence extended to their understanding of Scripture. For Ethiopian Christians, the Bible wasn't just a book. It was a living, breathing testament to God's interaction with humanity. Its texts weren't chosen for political convenience, but because they resonated with the spiritual truths passed down through generations. One of the most striking examples of this is the Ethiopian reverence for the Kebre Nagast, a text that recounts the story of how the Ark of the Covenant was brought to Ethiopia by King Solomon's son, Menelik I. This story, though not part of the Bible itself, is deeply intertwined with Ethiopian faith and culture. It's a bold claim, one that has drawn both awe and skepticism from the outside world. But whether or not you believe the Ark is in Ethiopia, there's no denying the profound sense of divine purpose that has shaped this nation's history. The Ethiopian Bible stands as a testament to a version of Christianity untainted by the politics of empire. But this purity came at a cost. Over the centuries, Western missionaries, colonial powers, and even modern scholars have dismissed the Ethiopian canon as irrelevant or heretical. They've called it apocryphal, unauthorized, or simply outdated. But why the hostility? What were they so afraid of? Perhaps it's because the Ethiopian Bible challenges the idea that Christianity is a European invention. It reminds us that the faith began in the Middle East and Africa, among people who looked very different from the images we see in Western art and media. Or perhaps it's because these texts encourage believers to think for themselves, to seek God with their whole hearts rather than relying on institutional intermediaries. Whatever the reason, the fact remains: the Ethiopian Bible has endured. It has survived wars, invasions, and attempts to erase its significance. And in doing so, it has become a beacon of hope for those who believe that truth cannot be silenced. But here's the real question: what does this mean for us today? If the Ethiopian Bible holds truths that were hidden for centuries, what else might we have overlooked? Could the answers to humanity's greatest questions be lying in plain sight, waiting for those bold enough to seek them? We're about to explore the forces that tried to silence the Ethiopian Bible and the battles fought to keep its secrets alive. We'll uncover the political intrigue, the hidden agendas, and the forbidden knowledge that made this Bible a target. Stay tuned, because the story only gets more astonishing from here. If knowledge is power, then forbidden knowledge is a threat. What was so dangerous about the Ethiopian Bible that it had to be silenced? And who were the forces determined to bury its secrets forever? The Ethiopian Bible, with its extra 15 books, its vivid accounts of divine mysteries, and its unapologetic boldness in addressing spiritual truths, did not sit well with the powers that be. Its very existence posed an uncomfortable question. What if the Western version of Christianity wasn't the only, or even the most complete story? To understand how this battle unfolded, we must journey into a web of political intrigue, religious agendas, and the deliberate shaping of faith. The story begins in 325 AD with the Council of Nicaea. This meeting of church leaders, convened by Emperor Constantine, wasn't just about theology, it was about consolidating power. Christianity had become the state religion of the Roman Empire, and Constantine needed a unified doctrine to hold his empire together. But unification came at a cost. To establish an official canon of Scripture, certain texts were excluded. The criteria weren't always spiritual, they were often political. Books that challenged authority, encouraged personal revelation, or didn't align with Roman ideals were deemed heretical. Among the excluded texts were many of the writings cherished by Ethiopian Christians. The Book of Enoch, with its vivid descriptions of angelic rebellion, was seen as too mystical and too provocative. The Book of Jubilees, with its insistence on God's divine timetable, didn't fit the emerging narrative of the Western Church. Yet, while these books were being erased from the Western canon, Ethiopia stood firm. Protected by its geographic isolation and its fiercely independent faith, the Ethiopian Church preserved these texts as sacred scripture. Fast forward to the 15th and 16th centuries. Europe was undergoing seismic shifts: the Renaissance, the Reformation, and the Age of Exploration. With these changes came an increased curiosity about the rest of the world and an intensified desire to spread Western Christianity. European missionaries arrived in Ethiopia, armed with Bibles, creeds, and an agenda to correct what they saw as Ethiopian Christianity's deviations from the norm. To the missionaries, the Ethiopian Bible was an aberration, an inconvenient reminder that Christianity had roots outside Europe. Take, for example, the Book of Enoch. When missionaries encountered this text in Ethiopia, they were stunned. By this time, the Book of Enoch was almost completely forgotten in the West, preserved only in fragments, referenced in passing by early church fathers. Its full text was thought to be lost forever. Yet here it was, intact, revered, and central to Ethiopian faith. The existence of the Book of Enoch in Ethiopia posed an uncomfortable question. Why had the Western Church abandoned it? Was it because the book's descriptions of angels, demons, and divine judgment were too unsettling? Or was it because it challenged the narrative of a neatly controlled and orderly cosmos? Whatever the reason, the missionaries' response was to dismiss it and to pressure the Ethiopian Church to adopt the Western canon. By the 19th century, the stakes grew even higher. Colonial powers, hungry for territory and resources, turned their eyes to Africa. Ethiopia, with its ancient traditions and proud independence, became a target. Colonialists didn't just seek to conquer land, they sought to conquer minds. Western education systems, religious institutions, and political structures were imposed, often at the expense of indigenous traditions. For the Ethiopian Bible, this was a perilous time. Western scholars labeled its extra books as apocryphal or pseudepigraphal, terms that cast doubt on their authenticity. They argued that these texts were less reliable, less inspired, and less Christian than the books of the Western canon. Take the story of Emperor Menelik II, who ruled Ethiopia at the turn of the 20th century. Menelik wasn't just a political leader. He was a defender of Ethiopia's faith and traditions. When European powers attempted to impose their influence, Menelik fought back, not just on the battlefield, but in the realm of culture and religion. But the forces against Ethiopia's sacred traditions weren't just external. Ethiopia's strength was also its challenge. The very isolation that had preserved the Ethiopian Bible for centuries made it vulnerable to division. While the Western world dismissed Ethiopian Christianity as exotic or heretical, internal debates about theology and tradition began to emerge. One key issue was the question of unity versus identity. Should Ethiopia align itself more closely with global Christianity, adopting Western practices and doctrines? Or should it double down on its unique traditions, even if that meant standing alone? These debates weren't just theoretical. They had real consequences. For example, in the mid-20th century, Ethiopia faced growing pressure to modernize its religious practices. Some church leaders argued for a more universal canon of scripture, while others insisted on preserving the full Ethiopian Bible. The result was a delicate balancing act, one that continues to this day. Despite these challenges, the Ethiopian Bible has endured. It remains a testament to a faith that refuses to be silenced, a reminder that truth cannot be contained by borders or politics. But its survival raises profound questions. Why was the Book of Enoch deemed too dangerous for the Western canon? Could its descriptions of the Watchers and their forbidden knowledge hold keys to understanding humanity's origins? Why was the Book of Jubilees excluded? Could its cosmic calendar reveal divine patterns that the Western world was not ready to accept? And what about the Kebra Nagast, with its bold claim that the Ark of the Covenant rests in Ethiopia? If true, this would rewrite the history of Judaism, Christianity, and the ancient world itself. But the most astonishing part of this story is yet to come. What if I told you that the Ethiopian Bible holds clues to prophecies yet to be fulfilled? That within its pages lie secrets about the end times, the return of the Messiah, and the destiny of nations? In the final part, we'll delve into these mysteries. We'll uncover the prophetic messages hidden in the Ethiopian Bible and the implications they have for the world today. Stay tuned, because the journey is far from over. They try to silence it. They try to erase it. But the Ethiopian Bible endures, whispering truths that the world is not prepared to hear. What if these texts don't just reveal the past, but also foretell the future? The question isn't just what the Ethiopian Bible contains, but why those who suppressed it feared its power so deeply. The Book of Enoch is one of the most enigmatic texts preserved in the Ethiopian canon. Its vivid accounts of fallen angels, human corruption, and impending judgment paint a picture of divine justice that resonates deeply with apocalyptic themes. Enoch describes a rebellion in heaven, led by the Watchers, angels who descended to earth, took human wives, and imparted forbidden knowledge to humanity. This knowledge, according to the text, was not a gift but a curse, leading to chaos and destruction. But here's where it gets even more startling. The Book of Enoch doesn't just recount ancient history, it points to a future reckoning. In chapter 1, Enoch writes of a time when the Lord will come with 10,000 holy ones to execute judgment upon the wicked. Sound familiar? The language closely mirrors the prophecies of Revelation in the New Testament. Could this be a missing link between the Old and New Testaments? And if so, what does it mean that the Western canon excluded it? But the Book of Enoch isn't just about judgment. It also speaks of hope, the promise of a new heaven and a new earth, a world restored to divine order. These themes echo throughout Scripture, yet Enoch's perspective offers a depth and urgency rarely seen elsewhere. Another fascinating text within the Ethiopian Bible is the Book of Jubilees. Often called the Little Genesis, it reimagines the events of Genesis with astonishing detail. What makes the Book of Jubilees so unique is its emphasis on God's divine timetable. It introduces the concept of Jubilees, cycles of 49 years, as a framework for understanding history and prophecy. According to Jubilees, every major event in history occurs according to this divine calendar. The Exodus from Egypt, a Jubilee moment, the arrival of Messiah, predicted within this cosmic rhythm. But what happens when humanity disrupts this timetable? Jubilees warns that straying from God's plan brings chaos and judgment. This raises an unsettling question. Are we living in alignment with God's timeline? And if not, what are the consequences? Perhaps the most controversial text in the Ethiopian Bible is the Nagast, the Glory of Kings. This epic story claims that the Ark of the Covenant, the sacred vessel containing the tablets of the Ten Commandments, was brought to Ethiopia by Menelik I, the son of King Solomon and the Queen of Sheba. The Ark is said to reside in the Church of Saint Mary of Zion in Aksum, guarded by a single monk who is sworn to protect it until his death. If true, this changes everything. The Ark is not just a relic of the past. It is a tangible link to the divine. Its presence in Ethiopia would validate the Ethiopian Bible's claims and position Ethiopia as a central player in God's unfolding plan. But the Ark's location is more than a historical curiosity. The Nagas suggests that the Ark will play a role in the end times, serving as a beacon of God's covenant with humanity. If the Ark is indeed in Ethiopia, what does that mean for the future? Could its discovery or revelation signal the fulfillment of ancient prophecies? The Ethiopian Bible is rich with eschatological themes, prophecies about the end of days. Unlike the Western canon, which often leaves these themes fragmented, the Ethiopian texts weave them into a cohesive narrative. Take, for example, the book of 1st Enoch, which describes the Son of Man coming to bring justice. This figure is unmistakably messianic, aligning with New Testament descriptions of Jesus. Yet Enoch's account adds layers of detail. The role of angels, the cosmic battle between good and evil, and the ultimate restoration of creation. Or consider the book of Jubilees, which predicts a final jubilee, a time when God will reset the clock, restoring harmony and righteousness. These prophecies are not just abstract ideas. They are calls to action. They urge readers to examine their lives, align themselves with God's will, and prepare for what lies ahead. So, why was the Ethiopian Bible suppressed? The answer lies in its challenge to established power structures. It decentralizes authority. The Ethiopian Bible empowers individuals to seek divine truth directly, without intermediaries. This threatens institutions that rely on controlling access to knowledge. It embraces mystery. Western theology often seeks to rationalize and systematize faith. The Ethiopian Bible, with its vivid mysticism and unapologetic embrace of the supernatural, defies such attempts. It proclaims a global faith. By preserving traditions that predate Western Christianity, the Ethiopian Bible reminds us that the gospel is not bound by geography or culture. Could it be that suppressing the Ethiopian Bible was not just about theology, but about controlling the narrative of faith? As we close this journey, one truth becomes clear. The Ethiopian Bible is not just a relic of the past. It is a living testament to a faith that refuses to be silenced. Its message is as relevant today as it was centuries ago. It challenges us to seek truth, even when it is inconvenient or uncomfortable. It reminds us that God's plan transcends human agendas, and it invites us to embrace the mystery of faith, trusting that God's wisdom is greater than our understanding. They called it heretical. They called it dangerous, but the Ethiopian Bible endures, a testament to the power of truth. And now, its secrets are no longer hidden. The question is, what will you do with this knowledge? If this exploration of the Ethiopian Bible has sparked your curiosity, don't stop here. Make sure to like this video, subscribe to this channel, and hit the notification bell so you never miss the next chapter of these mind-blowing stories. We want to hear from you. What do you think about the forbidden knowledge hidden in the Ethiopian Bible? Drop your thoughts, theories, and questions in the comments below. Let's uncover the mysteries together.